Good evening. Welcome to the Wednesday, August 19th, 2026 meeting of the Lakewood Planning Commission. I call this meeting to order at 7:10 p.m. Thank you, everyone, for your patience with us getting started this evening. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Yes, Chair Buckley. Commissioner Buckley?
Here.
Commissioner Curious?
Here.
Commissioner Holman?
Here.
Commissioner Molinar?
Here.
Commissioner O'Neill?
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, thank you very much. And if you will, Mr. Clerk, please read into the record the first item of business on the agenda this evening.
Item 3 is a rezoning for 2501 South Kipling Street. And we do have both an applicant and a staff presentation.
All right, and I will welcome the applicant presentation to come on forward. All right, good evening, sir. Just state your name and who you're with and everything, and carry on with what you're ready with.
Yeah. Good evening. I'm Stephen Sundberg with Creekside Homes. I'm the development director and been with Creekside for about 10 years now. Creekside's been a local developer in the area for almost 30 years now, and while the owner couldn't be with us today, he does live locally, a small operating business, and we appreciate you taking time to consider our application tonight. So ultimately, we typically focus on smaller residential products. We're kind of an infill developer, so we previously focused on townhomes and duplexes and kind of getting back into the single-family detached homes. So over the last few years, we've had a really nice overlook product that you'll talk about a little bit here. So overall, the intention is for a rezoning, but ultimately, we would like to build this product if the rezoning were to be approved, and that would be through a separate application, obviously. So I'll just start with kind of a general vicinity map, if you will. The two pieces I want to highlight for you are going to be boxed out in yellow. The larger of the two on the right side is going to be Bear Creek Overlook that we're talking about this evening, and that's the property for rezoning. The other one just to the south of it is referred to as Bear Creek Terrace. That's actually a previous property we developed in 2022 with townhomes. Very similar, kind of a smaller site, still provided all the stormwater utilities, kind of the same scale, but a smaller infill type, if you will. And overall, the townhomes are just kind of a different flavor from where they were years ago in terms of cost and insurance and everything else. This is a product that's been really well received in existing neighborhoods and keeping homeowners from having to maybe move elsewhere where their existing services are, the businesses, the neighbors they hang out with on the weekends. And this will be another just general map of some of our history. Again, the subject of the application tonight is just for the rezoning, but we're not a lot flipper or anything similar like that. Our intention is to build houses here ultimately, and these are some of the other locations we built these. All of these have been gated type communities, so ultimately that would be our vision here if things were to be approved and move forward. And again, this will be just a general vicinity map, more or less showing the cross streets for us. So we're going to be off of South Kipling Street is where the proposed access would be, but the other major cross streets being South Kipling Parkway and Morrison Road, obviously. So staff will get into some of the existing designations, if you will, but we wanted to touch on at least the land use and zoning maps. So this is the land use map a little further away, if you will. What we wanted to highlight here is when we get into the zoning, this area is going to be part of a neighborhood hub. So it has a little bit of a different land use designation. And per Lakewood's definition, that's intended to promote a variety of residential uses to support the commercial, office, retail type uses as well in the same overlay. And this will be more a district-specific zoning map. So the subject site shown with the green call out. Overall to the north, we have the PD with the underlying R112. To the east, we have R112. And then working our way to the south, there are still some subject properties of the R143 that are all in that same neighborhood hub. And then we get into the mixed general suburban. And again, those kind of the block townhomes to the south that you can see there are the ones that we previously developed in the area. This will be our conceptual land use map. So the general idea of this is to show access points into the property, the developable area where we would intend to build lots, and a little area for stormwater detention. So we do have water quality and detention that would be managed on site. And ultimately, any development would be held to public improvements along the frontage, which in this case include the detached sidewalk and an equestrian trail separate of that detached sidewalk coming down. And ultimately, there's only maybe 4 properties from just north of this that continue south without a sidewalk. So when we develop Bear Creek Terrace to the south, I can tell you that erosion and everything running down those properties, just because they haven't been developed, they really haven't been stabilized very well either. So I'm a civil engineer, and it's something I love this part of it, knowing we're kind of adding to the community as a whole as well. But this is going to be a photo of one of our existing houses. So I want to clarify the biggest thing, if we were to build this product, all of these floor plans that we have are single story. They are 1 floor on the main level. So some of these, because of the topo, would have walkouts coming out of the back side, but that would be following the existing grade as it works its way down and really not protruding any more into like a mountain view, for example. It's going to work its way down with the topo. So with that said, though, this is kind of the existing frontage that we built and that the gated kind of entry we picture. Through some of the pre-app coordination that we've talked about with staff, some of the concerns that they have are making sure trucks can pull off of Kipling Street without having to encroach for vehicles coming over the hill. So if we were to build this gate layout, it would be deep enough to accommodate cars not only to stall, but to turn around as well without encroaching onto South Kipling Street. And again, this is just going to be a picture of the last development we did in the city of Littleton, or unincorporated Jeffco, but it had a very similar layout for what we pictured here, kind of a small access drive-in with a hammerhead and houses that kind of wrap the perimeter of it. And we'll get into it a little bit more, but we love the large setbacks, we love the bigger backyards, and trying to promote as much open space as we can. So this is just a little bit of a comparison, again, to the product we intend to build. Tonight it's just the rezoning. But on the left side is kind of the existing community and some of the lot sizes that are outlined with that. And then on the right side is the summary of the zone district we're intending to go to. But I want to be clear, our preferred house in that floor plan only fits on 7 lots in this community. So while the rezoning won't cap us at 7, our intention is by all means to only build 7, and that equates to about 11,719 square feet. So while we are in the R19 zone district, it's only because we're just short of the R112 district, but still accommodates that same footprint and promotes the open space that comes along with it. And the only thing I'd add is originally when the city had adopted the previous zoning, this allowed a lot of different uses from townhomes, duplexes. Our intention then was still to only build 8 houses. It's what we picture on this property as being compatible with the community, and it's still what we want to do here. We weren't ever trying to stretch the envelope. It's what we feel fits best with the community. And I wanted to show this picture because this is a really good example of like the walkout elevation, but it doesn't feel that way. So the floor plans, they might be the same, but they'll have different roof treatments to almost kind of take you away from thinking it's the same building. So when it comes into planning variation, we account for those details. But you can see as this one works into a walkout in the rear grade, it doesn't feel like it picks up a whole second story below. It does add a little elevation to the back, but it's a really low profile type walkout, and that's why we wanted to show this photo for you. And again, just a similar elevation. This one's also a walkout with 2 others. Different roof treatment, but same type of floor plan as the ones before. So it looks like an entirely different house, different siding, stucco, stone. So ultimately that would be our intent, to do kind of a high quality finish on the building, but make each one have its own variety, maybe for a particular builder, or buyer that might like certain things. So generally, that's all I have for our presentation today. I believe I touched on most of it in terms of kind of the base details of the rezoning and kind of branching into what we intend to build. Love to answer any questions you might have and go from there. But.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sundberg. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Commissioner O'Neill, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. That was really detailed and helpful. The detached sidewalk that you mentioned along Kipling Street.
Yes, ma'am.
Will that connect then to the existing sidewalks at the bottom and top of the hill?
It wouldn't connect at the bottom and the top of the hill, so we have another applicant, I believe, that 2555 was here last week. We've discussed a few things together with our engineer and our contractors, so I can tell you, north of our property has sidewalk. We would continue it from there, but there is one property in between the two of us that isn't developing and hasn't really shown any interest to sell or improve the property, so to speak. So that would be the one odd man out, so to speak. But
Okay, thanks.
yeah, of course.
Sure. I have a question about your site plan. Of course, I understand it is just conceptual since we're just at the rezoning stage. You kind of showed a configuration on one of your previous slides where the street comes in and like it turns to the north and south rather than just having a hard cul-de-sac ending. Help me understand the rationale for that street layout, especially the one going to the north. It goes to your property line, it looks like. And the other side of that property line is like a lot that's been platted, on a cul-de-sac. So you're kind of backing up to someone else. So that street's never going to connect through. And I guess generally when you do a subdivision and you have a street that's not in a cul-de-sac like this going to the property line, it's with some sort of future intention to go through, but that will never happen here. So help me understand what's going on with that.
Yeah, so what this is it is an IFC compliant hammerhead turnaround, so it does meet the fire requirements. It is a private road because we opted to make a gated community. We'd provide easements and all that stuff for fire access to get in, but because of the private access, to be honest, it gave us a little more flexibility to kind of make sure this was a successful project. Separate of that, in terms of the connectivity, one of the comments from staff during the pre-application or initial reviews was to have a discussion with him just to see if he'd be interested in rezoning or providing that connectivity. Again, it's a gentleman who's lived there a while. He's got a lot of old cars in the garage. Kind of tells a little bit about how he appreciates the property and really is just against kind of changing his property. We've had a lot of discussions with him. I don't believe he's here tonight. I wouldn't say he's for or against us, but overall, he just wasn't interested in changing his property, I think.
Sure, yeah, and that's certainly his right to do with his property as he wants. That it's currently allowed and permitted.
Sure.
So yeah, but there is the intent, like that hammerhead going to the south, for possible some future provision, but for the north, it's really just there for the fire turnaround. I guess was it just a more efficient use of your space to do that street layout going north rather than a cul-de-sac? Or
that's correct. Yeah, to be honest, usually a cul-de-sac takes up about a 62-foot radius and really eats in a lot of the usable space. It still meets the fire requirements. We do the auto turn analysis to make sure it goes through. And I think Katie can comment. I do believe the intent is to provide right-of-way to that property line should the gentleman ever change hands on the property or change his mind altogether.
Right. But specifically with the property to the north, even no matter how much that changes hand, I have a hard time seeing how that connects. But
sure.
Yeah, to the south, I understand your point, and that's fine. And I understand too, the site plan could change in all sorts of ways. After we grant the rezoning, as you said, maybe some other things than what you're envisioning could be possible here.
Sure.
I want to ask you a little bit about the neighborhood hub future land use category. The purpose of this future land use category in the comprehensive plan is to, using some of the words in the plan, smaller scale commercial mixed use activity, accommodating third places, informal gathering places. It would seem that, residential zoning is maybe not that. Can you comment on the ways in which you feel that your application does meet that future land use category in the comprehensive plan?
Yeah, and I think just as a base, really initially looking at the map, the establishment of all the existing commercial and uses, there's a lot of accessibility trails around up to those 4 or 5 properties, but it doesn't continue from that point. So it's obviously an intent to finish the development, continue that continuity. I think separate of that, it's really just a takeaway from what we knew the community was expressing in the city of Lakewood. I wouldn't say by any means this house would be considered affordable housing, but we're trying to meet the middle between understanding that extensive density is not the correct answer, but understanding open space, compatibility, multimodal transportation, all of those things still need to tie into the single family detached product as well. So I think, to be honest with you, it's a little bit of kind of a balance between what we feel the community needed at the beginning and what we heard at the community meeting as well. It seemed like just about everybody was kind of nodding their heads when we talked about not doing a high density city product. I can't say they support it, but they definitely seemed what I usually describe torches and pitchforks. It wasn't that type of environment, so to speak. So I can't really describe it any more than that, but I think it was just a balance between one, what we felt the compatibility needed to the south, and what the neighborhood and the community members were expressing. But
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Molinar.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your presentation. My question is actually very much related to your question, Chair. Can you tell us a little bit more about the decision to make this a gated community? Because the gated part of it, for me, makes it maybe a little bit different than that community hub that the Chair was just talking about. Thank you.
yeah, of course. To be honest, it's really comes down to some of our buyers and I think some of their interests. I would say maybe 40 to 50% of our buyers are retired or maybe working part-time. So really, the gated community kind of gives them that ability to lock and leave if maybe they have, another place in Phoenix or maybe St. George, Utah, whatever that might be. So we've noticed a lot of them that this is their primary residence. It's the place they want to live forever, but they might have other locations that they kind of fall back to. In terms of the compatibility, I understand the intent. We actually did one in an existing community kind of backed into the neighborhood. Had a lot of discussion to that same effect. Overall, we intend to do like a wrought iron type gate, so it still has kind of an open feel in certain places, combined with masonry in other locations to keep the quality. So that's really the intent of why we do it and why we feel it really attracts the buyers at this stage. In certain locations, as we get a little closer to the car wash and some of the commercial, it's good to tie all those together, but there's certain activity that maybe comes with some of the commercial and retail, and having a little extra sense of security is something our buyers appreciate. But
Thank you.
yeah, of course.
Any other questions, commissioners? I'm seeing none right now. Thank you again, Mr. Sundberg. We may have questions for you later. We appreciate your presentation, and we'll move into the staff presentation now.
Thank you all, and for the questions.
Thank you and good evening, Chair Buckley and Planning Commissioners. My name is Katie Thomas, and I'll be presenting on behalf of staff for the rezoning case RZ26-0004 for 2501 South Kipling Street. So as the applicant stated, they're proposing to rezone approximately 2.83 acres from 1 acre lot residential or R143 to medium-sized lot residential or R19. The developer did go over the aerial and zoning map, so I might just kind of go through these a little quickly here. So all rezoning applications follow a process outlined in the Lakewood zoning ordinance. This process includes a pre-planning application, neighborhood meeting, formal application, planning commission public hearing, and then final decision by city council. So the neighborhood meeting was held on April 30th, 2026 to introduce the proposal and gather feedback. The meeting was attended by residents and members of nearby neighborhood associations, and attendees were engaged in discussion and asked questions and provided comments on topics that include proposed number of dwelling units, dimensional standards, utility service capacity, the rezoning process, and overall maximum allowed height in the new zone district. Planning cases that require a public hearing must follow the procedural requirements defined in the zoning ordinance. So notification was sent to 160 tenants and owners of property within 500 feet, 2 neighborhood organizations within a half mile. It was published in the newspaper, posted at the Civic Center, posted on the property, and it was published online as well. Referrals were sent to outside agencies, and none had any objections to the rezoning. So the intent of the R19 zone district is to provide for medium-sized lots, including single-family residential development. So here's a use comparison between the existing R143 and the proposed R19 zone district. The uses are very similar. The R19 district does not list apiaries, wind power generators, cemeteries, animal care, or plant nursery as permitted uses. This slide compares the dimensional standards between the existing and proposed zone district. A rezoning to R19 would reduce the minimum lot size and width. Other standards such as dwelling units per lot, maximum building height, front and rear setbacks would all stay the same. The side setback would reduce to 10 feet, and the minimum required open space would reduce from 65% to 60%. So the developer did go over their conceptual land use plan, so I won't spend too much time here, but just want to remind the commissioners that although this was included to support the rezoning request, you should keep in mind that the rezoning approval does not constitute approval of a specific development proposal, subdivision layout, or land use. So the zoning ordinance has specific review criteria that's required for rezoning approval, which includes conformance with the intent of the zoning ordinance, compatibility with surrounding land uses or land uses envisioned in the comprehensive plan, and it needs to meet one of the following: promotes the implementation of the comprehensive plan, material change in the neighborhood such that a rezoning would be in the public interest, or the initial zoning was found to be in error. So this proposal meets the intent of the zoning ordinance because it will provide a range of housing types and costs to meet current and future needs. It will implement the comprehensive plan and promote orderly development through a public process. It also accommodates the integration of development with the surrounding land uses. The proposed rezoning is compatible with the comprehensive plan and surrounding land uses. As we know, the comprehensive plan designates the site as a neighborhood hub, which envisions all residential forms. The surrounding land uses are primarily single-family, along with some commercial and townhome uses to the south. The land uses permitted in the R19 zone district are compatible with the mix of existing land uses adjacent to the site and in the surrounding neighborhood. So here's an aerial image that depicts the adjacent uses to the site, including single-family, townhomes, commercial uses such as office, storage, retail, a gas station, and a car wash. So the proposed rezoning supports the implementation of the comprehensive plan with the neighborhood hub designation. The proposed rezoning will provide a variety of residential housing types to support the existing businesses within the neighborhood hub future land use category. The proposed rezoning will also help bridge the gap between the existing lower density single family to the north and the existing higher density townhome and commercial uses to the west and south along West Morrison Road and South Kipling Parkway. So we've seen the future land use designation here from the comprehensive plan. So based on the information provided, staff finds that the applicant has submitted a request to rezone 2501 South Kipling Street from 1 acre lot residential, or R143, to the medium-sized lot residential R19 zone district. The conceptual land use plan was prepared with a request to show general conformance with the R19 standards. Notice of the public hearing was provided to property owners and residents within 500 feet and registered neighborhood organizations within a half mile as required by the Lakewood zoning ordinance. All other notification and posting requirements were satisfied. The request was reviewed by the appropriate referral agencies. The proposed rezoning promotes the purposes of this zoning ordinance. The proposed rezoning is compatible with the existing surrounding land uses and land uses envisioned in the comp plan. Proposed rezoning promotes the implementation of the comprehensive plan, and the proposed rezoning is in the public interest. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt the findings of fact A through I as presented in the staff report and recommend that City Council approve rezoning case RZ26-004. This concludes staff's presentation tonight. I will take my seat, but available for any questions the commissioners may have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Thomas. Do we have any commissioner questions for staff? We can roll into public comment then if there is any. I did not see anyone sign up to speak on this agenda item.
And I don't have any sign-in rosters for you.
Okay. Is there anyone here this evening who would like to speak on this case who did not sign up? All right, I'm not seeing anyone, so we will close public comment as well. Commissioners, any discussion? Commissioner Holman.
Thank you both for presenting. I did look at the map, and this is a neighborhood hub. And then looking at the comprehensive plan, it says that auto-oriented uses are generally not allowed. And then when it mentions residential forms, it includes multifamily, live-work, duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, and townhomes, not necessarily single family. And then it also mentions for a neighborhood hub that it prioritizes pedestrian safety, accessibility, transit, and bike access. And I don't know if this rezoning necessarily adheres to those. There are some bus stops nearby, and I didn't hear any improvements in the works to improving access to those specific bus stops. Yeah, I don't know. I think that generally housing is much needed, and I would love to approve this. I think the neighborhood hub desires don't really align with this rezoning, and I would even go as far to say that this should be higher density based on the neighborhood hub designation, and would like to see more transit safety, pedestrian safety, bike safety, things like that that are actually specified in the neighborhood hub designation.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Holman. Commissioner Carius.
My evaluation was very similar to Commissioner Holman's. The neighborhood designation really supports a stronger, more connected hub. Although the proposed rezoning meets the criteria, I believe, for evaluating the rezoning, I don't believe it really is meeting the spirit of the comprehensive plan or the goals behind it. It's a tough decision to make. I think also it could depend on what other alternative forms could be, promoted within the same space. I, again, leave it up to staff and to the developer to decide how that would function and how that better meets the goals, and if that's if they're capable of doing so within the R19 zoning, or if there's an alternative zoning that would be better. I'd have to look that up again myself, but I did also struggle to see how it is justified under the neighborhood hub space.
Thank you, Commissioner Carius. I do have a similar analysis. If I want to be very technical and find a reason to approve this, the comprehensive plan does say that the neighborhood hub land use category allows all residential forms, and that would include single-family detached. But the rest of that sentence reads all single-family forms, including multifamily, live, work, duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, and townhomes. So it goes on to mention virtually all of the housing forms except for the one housing form that is suggested here. So I think I could find a narrow technical argument. It does meet the letter of that particular clause of what this future land use category allows. But when I take it as a whole with the rest of what it envisions, I struggle to find just R19 inherently in itself meeting the vision for such an area. I'll put on the record just some comparisons I did with our maps. In the comprehensive plan, we have the future land use map that designates neighborhood hubs throughout the city. Generally, if you look at the existing zoning in neighborhood hubs, this one area is the only area we have some existing R143 zoning in a neighborhood hub. There are some other R1 zones that have the smaller lot sizes throughout the city that are also designated as neighborhood hubs in that comp plan. But I found just generally, when you look at those sites that do have the R1 zoning in a neighborhood hub, they tend to be schools or churches or houses of worship. And so those are kind of inherently community gathering places that are appropriate and belong in a neighborhood hub, and are third places that offer occasions for gathering. In a way that, the uses that are unique to R19 itself may not. Of course, a church or a school is allowed in R19, but a church or a school is allowed in, I believe, almost all of our zones in Lakewood. And so there could be other zones that are more appropriate than R19 here, in my view, that better accommodate those third places that, as Commissioner Holman was alluding to, better conform to a type of development where auto-oriented uses are generally not allowed, and better promote transit. I will point out that RTD does run the 99 bus down this part of South Kipling Street. It comes currently comes half an hour every half an hour, Monday through Friday, no weekend service. Not the best quality bus service, but it does exist here, which is more than we can say for a lot of places in Lakewood. And I think, what the comprehensive plan says about promoting the use of transit in neighborhood hubs. Some of that is not just, well, is there a bus nearby, and so therefore we can build anything. It's, are we actually building the most transit-supportive land uses? And I would say that, a proposal for 7 homes, in a gated community is maybe not as supportive of a land use for people who need to use transit as some other higher density uses that this neighborhood hub land use category envisions, in the same way that they would support that transit. So I just some additional reasons, I guess, I'm going to echo and agree with Commissioner Holman's and Molinar's and Carius' sentiments there. Anyone else? Commissioner Carius, go ahead.
Yeah, I just pulled up the zoning again. Maybe this is for staff or for the developer if they want to speak to it, but transit supportive density, as kind of outlined in the neighborhood hub, would probably be about 6 units per acre. With a 2.83 lot, you'd probably have to be something closer to an R2 density in order to meet that, or closer to like townhome level type development. Is that kind of what the idea was, or is this just based off of the applicants bringing, the product that they want to build to this site? Yeah, well, either of you.
Yeah, I think the question's for either of you, so staff, you can respond. Mr. Sundberg, if you'd like to respond, you're certainly welcome to come up here.
Thank you. And while I absolutely understand the concern, what I can express is the community does not support higher density in this location. They do not support townhomes, duplexes, or any attached product. If anything, there were still people asking why we can't build 2 houses on a property that they paid $20,000 in taxes for. So definitely understand the concern. In terms of RTD and connectivity, I can't tell you that our property is any different, but we have been in touch with RTD to improve the existing bus stop and make it ADA compliant as well. Unfortunately, any other proposals, I've just felt the take from the community that it will not be supported. So just wanted to add that.
Okay, thank you. Staff, I'd be interested in hearing anything from any of you on your thoughts on the reasons why, as the staff report suggests, that this zone district, R19, does meet the spirit of the community hub future land use map.
Sure. So as we read in the comprehensive plan, the neighborhood hub does say it accommodates all residential forms. The R19 will provide a medium density that would fit into this future land use designation. It also aligns with a number of other goals from the comp plan, such as developing underutilized sites located within a designated hub. In addition, the rezoning criteria states compatibility with existing surrounding land uses or land uses in the comprehensive plan. Staff feels that it is compatible with existing surrounding land uses. And then criteria number 3, proposed rezoning criteria, there has been a material change in the character of the neighborhood such that the proposed rezoning would be in the public interest, and staff feels that the proposal to this medium density R19 meets that criteria as well.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners? Commissioner Carius, is your light still on from earlier, or do you have a new question? Okay, fair enough. Commissioner Molinar.
Thank you, Chair. I really appreciate that this development is something that the people that live there now are satisfied with, and it is also compatible with the surrounding zoning. But I do struggle to see how it is sort of that in the spirit of the community hub, especially since it's a gated community. And I'm also thinking, like, we're talking, like, the comp plan is until 2040, and it's not just about like what we like right now, but it's like a longer time span, and also what the city needs in a couple of years. So I'm feeling conflicted about sort of these two things. Thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Molinar, I hear your sentiments of feeling conflicted about this. I feel the same way. Yeah, as Ms. Thomas points out, the comprehensive plan does, want to promote development of underutilized parcels, especially in places like neighborhood hubs. On the other hand, the comprehensive plan has an explicit goal for housing that's more affordable. And the sign outside the front of this neighborhood is for $2 million homes. I don't want to, nothing against the applicant, Mr. Sundberg, for marketing homes at that price point. There's a market for it. The private market serves what there's demand for, and that's that's okay. That's how the economy works. But nevertheless, we still have this conundrum that we talked about a lot when we were developing the comprehensive plan of, how do we make housing more affordable for people in Lakewood? And, we talked a lot about things we can do in the plan to promote construction of more affordable types of housing. And, there's lots of different definitions of affordable. You can get technical based on AMI and percentage thresholds of that area, median income, and so forth. And you can split hairs then, what exactly is affordable. But I think most Lakewood residents, including the large number of community members who, strongly advocated that our comprehensive plan advocate a goal for building a more affordable Lakewood, would say that maybe a $2 million price point is affordable to only a very, very small exclusive fraction of our current or future population. And there may be other land uses that are inherently better at serving like those lower price points that we want. And so then the question is a balance of how do we do all these things like, allowing the market to work and achieving these goals. I would suggest that the answer to that is that there are some places in our city we have designated still as appropriate for the lower form residential, single family residential predominantly. And there's other places the comprehensive plan is designated as appropriate for something that's a little bit higher density, and this is one of those places. And so on the whole, I guess I am still pretty skeptical that it meets the spirit of all the goals of the comprehensive plan when you take them together. Commissioner Carius.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, if this was literally just outside of the neighborhood hub zone, like literally across the street in Kipling, we wouldn't have had any of these concerns come up based on, the support for transit usage, the support for pedestrian friendly and bicyclist friendly, uses for the space. I think it's just, it's not lining up between what the comprehensive plan's actual goals are, even though, it says it allows for all types of housing. All types of housing don't support the comprehensive plan in the same way. There's different types of housing for different reasons. Those different types of housing are marketed to different types of people and have different connections to the use of the land. And I think I'm just still confused as to why staff thought it, fell under this category when it was very clearly an automobile-based usage that had one sidewalk being added to the neighborhood. And the major concerns that are flagged in the comments are just more traffic, because that's what this will generate. It's just not much traffic, it's 7 houses, but it's going to generate more traffic. It's a car-based development. So I don't know how we want to go about it, but for me, it sounds like the commission is mostly settled.
Thank you for those thoughts, Commissioner Carius. I will add, too, just to point out the obvious in the public record, any development under any zone that this property may have in the future that has to go through a major site plan process would be required to build that sidewalk there. We're not getting the sidewalk because we have to do R19, and that's the only way to get the sidewalk. We would get the sidewalk with any development that could come. Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. I might be the only dissenting voice up here. I would echo some of this is my neighborhood. So I do know the voices that the applicant is speaking of are not supportive of higher density in this area. I struggle with higher density in this area, not for not wanting more folks to have homes, but because of the transit issue. there isn't supported transit. So you're going to add 7 to 14 more cars if there's 2 cars per home versus 30, 16. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think that the bus, there's one bus line, and it is not a connected part of Lakewood. So I think that piece of it for me becomes a little bit of a bottleneck in this community hub discussion.
Commissioner Carius.
Yeah, I fully agree. Some of these areas are really tough to serve with transit. I would fully expect that without increased density, that bus line is going away in like a year, unless we vote for increased taxes. There will be no public services supporting these neighborhoods in the future, particularly many sections of Lakewood, without tackling and building actual proper neighborhood hubs with pedestrianization, with bicycling, with denser housing. Those types of services that are paid for by all Lakewood residents as well through their sales taxes right now, you just won't see them because it's not supportable. I, again, would emphasize 6 units per acre would be kind of the minimum density range for supporting the type of transit that this type of neighborhood hub, it would be designed around, to get people to walk to, you know, the restaurants down the street, to get people to bicycle to their friends' houses, you know, where kids can access those different spaces. And that, you know, if you want to be, you know, have access to a bus that does take you all the way to the train, hopefully, you know, to other spaces as well in different parts of town, I would expect RTD cuts this line if we don't build the land uses around it that actually support it. And that's my larger concern, is that Lakewood, many of Lakewood's bus lines, including this one, I would say are under threat without us changing our land uses in a way that actually conforms to support transit usage in the future. I don't expect RTD to continue to support us. I don't know if you have seen anything about RTD's budget situation, but I know under the current SOP, they're planning for a switch towards 80% ridership versus 20% coverage, whereas our current split is about a 45, 35, 5%. So essentially 45% goes to where ridership is, 35% is coverage based on the area around the entire RTD district, another 5 for other, you know, utilized services. They're planning to switch that completely on its head. So bus lines like the 99, like the 9, like 22 and others likely be lost if Lakewood continues. And I don't blame the RTD directors for blaming the cities like Lakewood and others who haven't built around the transit stations or around these hubs. It makes it challenging, and it's a chicken and egg problem, but like somebody has to step up at a different time, or they're just gonna ask you for more money. So it's either this spot becomes a better transit hub that is actually envisioned in the comprehensive plan, or they come to you and say, well, if you want your bus route, you gotta pay more money. And that's really what it's gonna come down to.
Commissioner Holman.
Yeah, not going to talk about transit, but regarding the pedestrian access, the hammerhead shape that was presented, I know we're not necessarily judging the rezoning based on that, but it does cut off access to the east, which then would require pedestrians to get to the shopping center. They would have to go west onto Kipling Street, then south to a major intersection at Morrison, and then walk all the way to Lewis Way, which is another major intersection, and then they can get to the shopping center. But if it wasn't a hammerhead and was just a through street, it would be a much shorter distance, a much safer access to the shopping center, and I think that would be something that I would support in a neighborhood hub use.
Yeah, thank you for that comment, Commissioner Holman. I agree with the sentiments. Of course, there is the challenge. There is a different property owned by different individuals backing up to this, so it would be, you know, you couldn't build a through street right now. You know, you are correct that you could build a street that has that hammerhead maybe on the back property line. But we're not really judging like site design details like that today. It's just about the land use category of R19. Commissioner O'Neill, is your light still on from earlier, or did you have more thoughts?
I had a couple more thoughts about the connectivity and transit, though I appreciate and don't follow as closely the RTD ridership. I know ridership is difficult, I do have several children that have relied on the RTD system, that it's painful from this area, and that's not Lakewood's fault. And it's not necessarily RTD's fault, because it sounds like there's kind of, like you said, a chicken and the egg thing going on, and it's difficult. It may just come to taxpayer money to support RTD. I don't think that it's necessarily fair to expect this one development to support and bring RTD up to speed here. This location south in Lakewood is just difficult to get to the mall, the grocery store. Down the street, it'll take you 45 minutes on the buses on this street. So it's really, just from that perspective, I think a difficult place to put higher density. Sorry for getting so close to my microphone.
No worries. Any other commissioner discussion? All right, I'm seeing nothing else. I have a motion I'm going to venture forth. I move the following resolution, findings of fact and order. The Planning Commission finds that, 1, the proposed rezoning does not promote the purposes of the zoning ordinance as required by Lakewood Municipal Code 17.2.3.3 A1, in that it does not provide for a range of housing types or costs to meet the current and future needs of the citizen of the city. And 2, the proposed rezoning does not promote the land uses envisioned in the comprehensive plan as required by Lakewood Municipal Code 17.2.3.3.2, because the R-1-9 zone district is incompatible with the envisioned neighborhood hub future land use category that designates the desired future land use pattern for this area of the city. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Planning Commission of the City of Lakewood that the Planning Commission recommends denial of case RZ 26-0004 to the City Council.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Commissioner discussion on this motion. Commissioner Carius.
Can we just check with staff to make sure that our language is proper?
Yeah, was our city attorney following along on that? I did try to draft something before the meeting that, knowing how I was thinking, and of course being open-minded to the testimony I heard tonight, but in the event that we went this direction, I tried to make something that, clearly stated the reasons for our denial as required by the code.
Gus Genk on behalf of the Lakewood City Attorney's Office. I was trying to type along and track along as quickly as I possibly could. I think I might have missed a few things. That it was that the Planning Commission finds that the planned rezoning does not meet the required rezoning provisions of the code by not providing the range of housing types and costs to meet the future needs of the city, and that the rezoning does not meet the requirements of 17.2.3.2 because the R-19 district is incompatible with neighborhood hub designation in the comprehensive plan. Did I miss anything?
You got the essence of it. That code citation for the neighborhood hub, it's 17.2.3.3.2 that requires that the rezoning is compatible with the land uses envisioned in the comprehensive plan.
Thank you.
Given what you caught there as I was reading, I appreciate you taking quick notes, Mr. Skanko. Do you have any comments on this resolution that's pending?
Just one moment for review, please.
No worries. While you're doing that, Commissioner Holman.
I would just like to say that I'm super conflicted on this. Leaving the zoning as is, there could be one $10 million home that wouldn't fit the use, and then that would be allowed because that's what it's currently zoned for. And then by approving it or denying the motion, then how do I word this? We're still getting housing, and housing filtering is still a thing. So even if people move into those homes, they're freeing up other housing if they're moving from the area. So it does create housing, which is why I kind of do want this rezoning, but then I think that it could be better. So I don't know if good is the enemy of perfect in this case, but I'm conflicted.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Holman. I appreciate your conflicted nature. I'll acknowledge what you say about housing filtering. It's a real phenomenon. This is studied and documented in lots of the economic literature. Even if we build very expensive luxury homes, as proposed here, those people who can afford those kind of homes are not competing for other homes in the community, and someone of lesser means can afford those homes, and then in turn that frees up more homes for people with even lesser means than that, and so forth. It sounds a little suspect to a lot of people, but the economic literature does support that. So you're totally valid to point it out. I will defend the motion I made, saying that it does not provide the range of costs meeting the needs of the city. In that, while that filtering effect is real, I think the neighborhood hub category envisions the possibility of some additional density, and it doesn't have to be crazy density. This is not one of the future land use designations that envisions lots and lots of extreme density, but there could be some more gentle forms of density here that better aligns with the land uses envisioned in the comprehensive plan. And because it's additional housing at a lower price point, it even more directly and more efficiently triggers that filtering effect you were talking about. And so it's not, my statement that it's not meeting the costs, goals that we have as one of the intents and purposes of our zoning ordinance and one of our goals in the comprehensive plan is not a denial that the filtering mechanism, it doesn't work at all. It's an acknowledgement that we can do more to make that effect more powerful and work more directly. Commissioner Carius.
Sorry, I got distracted. Yeah, I hear you, for sure. It sucks when you look at these things. But also, I think part of it is the way the comprehensive plan was written, as it was written such. I think there's kind of this very broad category that you actually have to look to the purpose of what land uses should go in there. So like the land use category for the zoning that's going in, or I should clarify, land uses and zoning are two different things, but obviously they're related. The zoning that goes into the property needs to support the actual purpose behind the neighborhoods. And I think in this case, we're just looking at a rezoning or a type of zoning that doesn't actually match up with the words of the comprehensive plan, even though the words themselves also allow for this very broad use category in it. The other, surrounding factors that would justify what a neighborhood hub is, we would just nullify the point of a neighborhood hub. Like, why have that designation if it's not backed up or used in any purpose? So I hear you for sure. I think also at the same time, council doesn't like our decision from the Planning Commission. They can go ahead and reverse this. It's our recommendation to them. They're the final decision.
Thank you. Mr. Skink, did you have any comments?
Yes, thank you. It took me a minute to find it in the zoning code. I do apologize. If I'm not mistaken, the reference is to 17.2.3.3A2 with the language reading, the proposed zoning or rezoning is compatible with existing surrounding land uses or the land uses envisioned in the comprehensive plan. I just want to make sure that's what you were referencing.
That was the chapter. That was the chapter and verse I was referencing. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And I do have the code open right here in front of me. So yeah, that's what I was looking at.
I'm sorry, I was a little bit late to the party on that one. I would just like to point out the use of the word "or" there. That the proposed zoning or rezoning is compatible with existing surrounding land uses or the land uses envisioned in the comprehensive plan, and just want to make sure that the commission considers that it's a two-parter.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, indeed.
Commissioner Buckley.
Go ahead, Mr. Rice.
If that makes you uncomfortable at all and you want to amend it, the other thing is somebody could move to approve the rezoning based on the staff information that you have, and the commission can vote however they want. And if you don't get the required to approve, it's essentially denied. So that's an easier. Most everything you're going to find from staff, our motions are for the affirmative, whether we support or oppose the project. So that's an alternative available to you as well.
Yeah, I hear you there. I do want to inquire, this maybe a question for Mr. Skank as well, to give us feedback on. If I'm not mistaken, our rules and regulations say that the Planning Commission makes decisions by passing resolutions. And so I've had the same thoughts of like what Mr. Rice's suggestion now, that, to deny things, is it best to just vote no on a motion of approval? Not passing a resolution of approval is not passing a resolution, which my understanding of our bylaws is what we have to do to make a decision. And I'll say too, the code, I'm going to try to find it here. This is from 17.2.3.5D4. Following the public hearing, the Planning Commission shall make a recommendation to the City Council to approve with modifications where appropriate, or deny the application based on the review criteria and then it cites the section where those criteria are. Again, the shall make a recommendation to City Council to approve or deny. If we don't make a recommendation to approve, have we followed that code with respect to making a recommendation to deny?
It's a wonderful question. And there's two schools of thought on that. One, it would be that the vote to approve the application failed, and therefore it is effectively a denial. Or, Chair Buckley, it could be in the vein that you proposed the wording of the resolution, which would be in the negative, that we vote to not approve this, and then that would be a denial as well.
Okay, so it's your position that the message to City Council, and I guess in a practical way, I see the logic of this, is equally clear, and we've equally done our duty with respect to what the code requires of us. If we either vote yes on a denial or vote no on an approval, and that's at the end of it.
That would be my understanding, but I would want to confirm with Director Rice to ensure that that is also compatible with the standard procedure of the Planning Commission, as I'm merely a fill-in for your much more esteemed regular attorney, Ms. Stanek.
Yes, that's why we're writing the resolutions in the affirmative.
Go ahead, Commissioner Carius.
Yeah, sorry. I think we can make this easier looking at the review criteria again and going through. I think number 2 is where we get held up by the or, but then it's number 3 actually that we should be looking at, which it needs to meet at least one of these criteria. Promoting the implementation of the comprehensive plan, which we've determined it does not, or at least so far, the majority of the commission leans no. That there has been a material change in the character of the neighborhood. I am not seeing any substantial material change in the neighborhood presented in the evidence or the record today, such that the rezoning would be necessary, or that it was zoned in error. So by my count, it's not number 2 where we're not meeting or finding that it's not meeting, but rather it's number 3 actually where we're finding it's not meeting the review criteria. And that would be because it fails on 3A of not promoting the implementation of the comprehensive plan. And then nullifying essentially in staff's resolution B, which stated that there has been a material change to the neighborhood. There is no material change to the neighborhood that we can find.
All right.
I think that makes it easier.
Yeah,
right?
Commissioner Carius, if you're willing, I would be okay with withdrawing my motion if you would like to offer a motion to the effect that you just stated.
If I may,
Yeah.
there's a motion and a second on the floor, so the main motion cannot be withdrawn. It could either be sent to a vote, or if Chair Buckley would accept a friendly amendment, someone could move to amend the main motion.
All right. Okay, I'll take a friendly amendment from Commissioner Carius here. Okay, thank you. Can a motion not be withdrawn if the motion maker and the seconder both agree on it?
It's the rights are limited after it's been sent to the entire body effectively at that point, and so that's the purpose of the friendly amendment.
Understood. Thank you.
So you just read this straight down. I hope you're ready. I think the amendment to the motion would be that we remove the first statement. So that was the proposed rezoning is incompatible with the zoning ordinance. Did you read that part?
I did.
I don't think that one is necessary. It falls then to number 2, where the proposed rezoning does not promote the comprehensive plan or land use as envisioned in the comprehensive plan. I believe that was the wording. And that's because the R19 zoning does not meet 3A, which is promoting the implementation of the comprehensive plan, or 3B, there's no substantial material change to the neighborhood, or that the property was previously proposed in zoning or rezoning in error. It does not meet any of the criteria in 17.2.3.3A, 3, A, B, or C.
If I may, just to maybe try to make it a little simpler, perhaps the motion to amend would be that rather than denying based on the application not meeting the requirements of 17.2.3.3A2, the amendment would be to state that it does not meet the requirements of 17.2.3.3A3 subparts A through C.
Yes, that's correct.
I accept that friendly amendment.
Is there a second?
Second. Okay, so we have that revised motion and second on the floor now. Any further discussion, commissioners? Commissioner O'Neill.
I think I would make the argument that there actually has been material change to the area based on the neighborhood, the newer neighborhoods that have gone in flanking either side of the 3 parcels, the one that was under review last week, this one, and then the one that is unwilling to sell or whatever. Those properties still look very agricultural and do not match what's been built below or above or behind. And so based on that criteria, I would say that it absolutely, the area has materially changed from, I mean, it used to be sort of the farms and the woods out there, and it's not anymore. So, and that's been a gradual change, but I would say that it does not match the character of the surrounding area. It's, there's not even sidewalks connecting between those 3 spots, and it makes it difficult to walk and be a walkable area. So for that reason, I will not be supporting the amendment or the motion. I think that the candidate has proven that he's meeting that.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner O'Neill. Yeah, I mean, I'll say that the neighboring, the neighboring lots in the R143 district are, like this undeveloped lot, have not substantially changed in their character in a long time. And so I think there's room for interpretation in the ordinance of, how far out you look for, a change in the character of the neighborhood. I would say that, just if you look at the kind of immediately surrounding R143 parcels, those with the most similar zoning to what we have now, that there's not been that. And so absent those, my interpretation of that would be that absent those R143 parcels changing in some manner that's more supportive of R19 would not be as appropriate as another zoning designation that would more closely match the community hub. And I'll point out that we know 2555 South Kipling is is arguably changing. We had that applicant last week who wanted to change his zoning in this area from R143 to MGS. But the use and character of his lot is not changing. He was really seeking to legalize a longstanding practice in the lot, and more to the fact, he sought the MGS zoning district, which is more compatible with what the neighborhood hub designation envisions than R19 is. So I respect your view, Commissioner O'Neill, certainly. I think I do disagree that we fail to meet that. I disagree that we do meet that criteria. I agree that we do not meet the criteria about the change in the neighborhood. Commissioners, anyone else? Okay, we will take a vote. We have a motion, Mr. Skank.
I apologize. I hate to step on toes and interject. I just want to ensure that we all are aware that we're voting solely on the friendly amendment at this point.
Okay.
And then there will be a vote on the entire motion, whether to approve or not.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarifying. So we're voting on the friendly amendment, which changes the rationale for our denial from basically not meeting A2 to not meeting A3, sub A through C. So a yes vote is in favor of Commissioner Carias's friendly amendment. A no vote has the effect of leaving my original motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. That passes 4 ayes, 1 nay, the nay being Commissioner O'Neill. Okay, so therefore, the motion now on the floor is to essentially, it might be summarized, to deny or to recommend to the City Council that they deny this rezoning case because it does not meet criteria 3, sub A through C. Seeing no discussion, Commissioners, let's begin voting on that. Again, a yes vote is for denial, a yes vote supports the motion for denial, a no vote would be against that motion for denial. Okay, so the motion carries 4 ayes, 1 nay, the nay being Commissioner O'Neill. Mr. Sundberg, I'm sorry things did not go the way you hoped for this night, but we appreciate your time and your effort and your thought and you put into the application. And I would just invite you we'll go to City Council and we'll see what happens there. And I would just invite you to, continue working with staff for possible paths forward, whatever that City Council hearing may bring. But this is our recommendation. Mr. Rice, next item, please.
The next item on the Planning Commission agenda is item 4, general business.
Okay, and do we have any general business, calendar business, or anything like that to discuss?
I do have some calendar items if you're ready for me.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we had to reschedule the 26th of August, so we're looking for dates. So I'll give you a couple of dates that we are trying to confirm with the Commission. September 16th, September 23rd, and one or the other of September 30th and October 7th.
Mr. Rice, I'm sorry I missed some of those dates. Can you say them all again?
September 16th, September 23rd, September 30th, October 7th.
Okay.
Is that an either or on the 7th or the 30th?
It depends on, yes. So we have one particular applicant that keeps postponing on us. If we can do them both on the 30th, that's our preference. If they were coming up to our due date times, we may have to push them back into October. So we have one application that continues to kind of fall. So on the 16th, you would have Two rezoning requests, if we can confirm that date. The 23rd, we have a major subdivision is what we're looking at. And then on the 30th, we're looking for another rezoning and possibly a special use permit. So,
I was just being selfish. My birthday is on the 29th of September.
and we can push them into October. The 30th is a fifth Wednesday in the month. We did open all the Wednesdays up, but if you want to stick with the 4 typical meetings that we have, we can take that off and push them into October.
Okay.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I don't have any immediate, those dates, I don't, nothing immediately sticks out to me that I would not be available. I don't know if anyone else has any of those dates that they are not available for. Speak now, but we can also tell Mr. Rice over email later too.
Okay, so I've got all 5 of you, and I believe the clerk's office is still looking at filling our vacant position as well. So we may have 4. All right, so I'll repeat them. September 16th, 23rd, 30th, and October 7th are our next 4 hearing dates. And right now, I do have cases for each of those dates. If I can consolidate them, or if one falls, I'll definitely let the commission know. But that will be the next 4 dates for the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you. Any other general business anyone wants to bring up? I have an item that I'll mention to the commission for your benefit. I mentioned this to Mr. Rice when I had a conversation one with him last week. Staff months ago sent us some suggested updates to the rules and regulations for, well, actually, I think it was just the Board of Adjustments. Maybe this is the general business of the other meeting, but the Planning Commission rules and regulations have an idea of being updated too. So we have a lot of cases right now. We won't try to pick a date for that, but it could be coming within the next, I don't know, maybe 3 to 5 months where I may be asking staff to agenda an item for us at some meeting where we look at our bylaws. So just so you're all aware that that's coming up. And yeah, if you want to go read the bylaws, if you have any suggestions, get ready to start thinking about those. We'll try to be working that in when our caseload has it make sense. Okay. Nothing else. There's no other business before us. So what I'm about to do is I will adjourn this meeting. It's technically a separate meeting of a separate board for the Board of Adjustment that is also hearing a variance case to this. So I will adjourn this meeting. I propose we take about a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and gavel in the Board of Adjustments meeting. All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you. This meeting ends at 8:22 p.m. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Board of Adjustment meeting for Wednesday, August 19th, 2026. It is 8:22 p.m. when I gavel this meeting of the Board of Adjustment into session. Mr. Rice, 8:32 p.m. Mr. Rice, please call the roll.
Board Member Buckley,
Here.
Board Member Carius,
Here.
Board Member Holman,
Here.
Board Member Molinar,
Here.
Board Member O'Neill.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Mr. Rice, our first item of business.
Item number 3, election of officers.
All right, so per the rules and regulations of the Board of Adjustments, we have an election at the first meeting of the year after the seating of new members of the board, which usually happens on or about April 1st. This is the first time the Board of Adjustment has met this year. For those who are watching and may be confused, the Board of Adjustments and the Planning Commission exist in the city charter as two separate, legally distinct boards with distinct duties, but there is a city ordinance that says that they are comprised of the same individuals, which is why it's just the same group of us back that was here 10 minutes ago. But we had officers on our other, on the other entity, the Planning Commission. We don't have officers yet on the Board of Adjustment. Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Board Member Buckley. I'd like to make a motion to elect the same officers for the Board of Adjustments as we have serving on the Planning Commission. That would be Chair, Board Member Buckley, Vice Chair, Board Member Carius, and Secretary, Board Member O'Neill.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, cast your votes. A yes is in favor of electing those officers. That passes 5 ayes, 0 nays.
Before we move on, Board Member Buckley, I believe Board Member Carius was the second. Is that who I heard? Okay,
Yeah,
thank
yes,
you. I'm
yeah.
just taking notes. I want to make sure who I got the second.
Correct. All right, when you're ready, Mr. Rice, for the next agenda item.
Item 4 is a variance request VM 250007 for 1085 Everett Court.
Okay, I believe we have an applicant and staff presentation on this. Which one's going first? Is it the applicant?
The applicant will go
The
first.
applicant going first. Is the applicant here? Sure. All right. Mr. Teska, I presume?
Correct,
All
yes.
right, welcome. Thanks,
you.
thanks for coming out here tonight.
Board members, thank you so much for hearing me. I'd like to walk you through our variance application. So just to get started, my name is Brandon Teska. I'm the homeowner at 1085 Everett, and this variance application is for a fence variance. So just to kind of orient everybody to kind of where we're talking about here, 1085 Everett Court is down here in the blue, and the Garrison Light Rail Station up here is shown in the red. Now, why that's important for this particular variance is that approximately 1 block away from each other, Moss Meadows, give or take. And the Garrison Light Rail Station is one of the spots where we see a lot more criminal activity, and that's per one of our CAT officers. And that's something that we personally experienced at our current residence, which is just to the south of our new residence there as well. And this is actually backed up by the data too. When we look at LexisNexis, the blue star here is the location of the property in question, and we can see a concentration of various types of point crimes to the north and also to the east, centered mostly around Colfax and around Wadsworth as well. If you'll permit me, I do have some more up-to-date data too that looks at it in a per capita distribution. I'll just give this to you as well.
Yeah, go ahead. All right, thank you.
And what this highlights here is more of a per capita look at crime too. So just looking at these from 2 different aspects to kind of make the case that we live in an area that is exceptional in that security and property safety is something that's paramount, just given the locations and the surroundings. So, unfortunately, this is something that we've experienced firsthand, and one of the parts I wanted to make slightly interactive with this presentation tonight was to poll the audience real quick, if you'll allow me.
Yeah, there's not a lot of people here. You can
Sure.
You can certainly poll the audience. Anyone in the audience, you are not compelled to respond one way or the other. If you want to, that's fine.
Just curious, how many people are homeowners here in Lakewood? Okay. And then how many people have had a break-in attempt? How many people have had 2 break-in attempts? 3? Okay. I'm the only one here with that. And that's part, again, just to make the point that this has been something that's ongoing for us and something that we're imminently concerned about to be able to control or to really just keep my family safe. So this happened on a couple of different occasions. I have just some various security footage for you. This was an armed assailant that attempted to break into our current house, which is next to the adjoining property. Another young lady also attempted here as well. I will say my compliments to Lakewood's finest, as they were really great in dealing with both of these as well too. The current property does have a 7-foot, a 6-foot privacy fence that is an effective deterrent, as we see in that one. And the reason I bring this up too is the third attempt here was actually at the location in question that we're requesting the variance from. So the gentleman running to the top of the screen there ends up jumping over the fence right in the location approximately where this variance would be needed after being pursued by these other gentlemen here as well. So with, kind of setting the stage a little bit in that case, and this is kind of to really just kind of give you some of the rationale by why we're requesting this change and why this variance, knowing that, So given these 3 different episodes, as a father of 2 young girls, a 10-year-old, or excuse me, a 6 and an 8-year-old, what do you tell them at night when you put them to bed when things like this happen? That you did everything that you could to make sure that the house is safe and that you're trying to take care of them and protect them as best you can. So What we're proposing is a variance to allow for a 6-foot-tall privacy fence and vehicle gates. This would extend the current fence that exists in this location back inwards towards the vehicle gate and would allow for a 35% opening on that vehicle gate open area there. This is what the fence design actually looks like. This is a picture of it from the real world too. I'd just like to note that the car is pretty clearly visible through that, as is the rest of the house as well. And I also have a little demonstration here. If I could get a volunteer from the audience or one of the board members perhaps. I have 2 drawings here. One of these is 50% open and one of them is 35% open. I'm just curious if it's immediately 50%. Okay, good. You're right. So this is something that we thought was pretty elegant, also was pretty modern. Well, brought some beauty to the neighborhood while not looking, monolithic and imposing, and trying to make it look like, for lack of a better term, a prison or something like that, while still maintaining public safety and visibility into the property. So this is what it looks like when we look at it from a schematic view. This is kind of what this would end up looking like. I think this view gives it a little bit better credence as we were able to see a little bit more in 3D kind of what this would look like. So obviously we have lots of lighting, very well marked, clearly marked, obviously, mail slot for the mailman to be able to get into. This is kind of a look through. We definitely get some good visibility into the property with this proposed variance as well. It's from the right side here. Also there's an easement that runs through this naturally, as most property borders have, with electrics, utilities, that kind of thing. I've reached out to all of them and have received no objections to the current proposed plan from any of the utility holders. Also not shown here is Google, that I have a letter of no objection form as well too. I have had a lot of discussions with the members of the zoning commission here, and I'd like to respond to just some of their comments, just to give you a little thoughts on sort of where I'm coming from for some of this. One of the things that they pulled out was that our property is pretty unique in that it has quite a bit of topological difference. So the northeast corner of the house there, as shown in the slide, is roughly 8.5 feet above the cul-de-sac there. One of the concerns from the zoning commission was that there was concerns to be able to see into the front yard if there was an emergency or something like that would need to be responded to for firefighters, police, things like that too. I was able to take a picture of that too, to kind of give you, this is just at my eye height, standing outside here. The chain link fence in particular is also 6 feet too, and you can see the existing 6-foot privacy fence as well. Excuse me. The front door is pretty clearly visible here. You can see the porta potty has since moved, but the numbers of the house are kind of right behind that right here. So this does really not interfere with any of the current needs for public safety and health here, as this the fence doesn't really interfere with that, given the location of the house topologically with respect to the rest of the units. So a couple other things I'd like to mention too. The zoning commission agreed that there was really no impairments for existing neighboring properties, and I think that would be something that would have basically being able to do this fence like this would really not impair any of our neighbors as well too. And one other thing that they noted too was that there aren't any other houses that have fences really, except for one on the 13th Avenue basically, or Everett Court. The rest of the houses that surround this, both on Field and on Estes, have more similar lots, and all of those have some sort of fence, and most of those are above the 4-foot requirement too. If you'd like there's a picture that I took that's a kind of a montage of that's included in some of the staff comments down towards the end there. Sorry. Okay. So kind of to sum up here, our proposed variance would be a 6-foot tall privacy fence and vehicle gate. This would have no effect on public safety, given the height and also the opening. There would be really no change from the previous fence height. This was the previous backyard fence in the previous property that was subdivided to create this one. Their 35% open area for the vehicle gate would allow us to enhance the security given the increased crime rate in this area, and would also add something to add some beautification to the neighborhood. I'd be happy to take any questions from any of the chair members, and thank you for allowing me to speak on this.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation, Mr. Teska, and I'll just state here too, we got some, thank you for the graphics handouts you gave us, and we were given just before the meeting some letters of support from your neighbors. This is the first time we're seeing them here on the commission up here, but I quickly tried to read through it here right before we began the meeting, so I appreciate all of that. We do have questions from you for you from Board Member Carius.
Hi. How wedded are you to the 35% versus the 50%?
That one I'm willing to move on. I think the particular design that we had really liked, we thought was really beautiful. It brought a lot of beauty to the neighborhood. Just inherently had that as the kind of spacing, and so that's why we went with that as opposed to something fully opaque or something like that.
Gotcha. And then kind of similar for the privacy fence extension around that section. Are you wedded to that privacy fence, so like no visibility specifically?
I'd be willing to do that in the same same style as the vehicle gate as well too, and make that 35% open. Yeah, I'd be willing to do that.
35% open or 50%?
Yeah,
open?
35 or 50. The details.
So I'd like 35. Yeah, if that's I'd like 35. But
Okay.
I'd be willing to compromise on the privacy fence that goes back, and I'd be willing to make that 35 as well too.
Board Member O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. Are you currently occupying the house now?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I have a similar question of what my fellow board member may have been hinting at. You showed those two videos. I think you said one of them was at the very site of the house that's like under construction. It appears to be almost done with construction on the site.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then do you live in the house on the lot to the south that used to be the same lot as this?
Correct, I do.
Okay, that's your residence. So and so the videos you showed of the intended intruders in that property, that's where you actually live now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
It's
okay.
the adjacent property, yeah.
I see, yeah. And so I understand from the staff report, you subdivided this lot a few years ago. You're building the second home on the north side of it. I guess your intent is to sell this house or to live in it, or
To live in it.
To-
To be
to-
the house for our family, yeah.
so the house to the north will be your new house, and you'll do something else with the house in the south.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, understood. So you'll be living here. Yeah. So that house on the front that faces 10th Avenue, I did notice, as you said, when I went out and looked at the lot from all sides, that there is an existing gate on the front of that is more than 4 feet tall. It looks like it also has more than the 50% openness to it. It does appear to me from your video that it did its job of deterring that particular attempted intruder. But can you talk to me, since a 4-foot fence is not allowed without a variance anywhere generally, how that 6-foot fence came to exist? So is that just so old it predates the requirement to your knowledge, or do you know how it's there?
For sure, the one that you're referring to is at 9001, correct, our current address?
Yeah, the one on 10th Avenue.
Correct,
yeah.
yes. That one has predated us owning the house. We bought it like that, and so
Okay.
my assumption is that it was placed sometime before the requirements had changed.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of the other neighbors in the area have 6-foot tall fences. Do you know any hard facts for them about how their non-conforming with the 4-foot requirement gates came to be?
I don't have any specifics. My assumption again is that this neighborhood has been here for forever.
Right.
And so it probably all existed before those requirements were put into place, and they were essentially grandfathered in.
Yeah, that's my guess too, but I was just wondering if you knew of facts, and it's not just an educated guess, which is also all I can make at the moment. Unless staff has some information, I'll ask them later. I am sympathetic to your concerns about security. I'm fortunate that it was not in Lakewood, but before I moved to Lakewood, I lived somewhere else, and I did have a house where on 2 occasions someone tried to break into my property, and I had some security features on that property that did not allow that to happen, which I was grateful that worked out that way, but it was nevertheless scary, right? And The idiots stole my lawnmower anyway, but they didn't get to my house. So, you know, I appreciate on a personal level, your concerns about security. Nevertheless, this is a quasi-judicial hearing. The city ordinance requires those of us on this board to approve this variance only if you have sufficient evidence that it meets the approval criteria. No matter how sympathetic I may find your case, I am not legally permitted to vote to approve the variance unless I am convinced that it does meet all of these criteria. And I will tell you the one that I am having the hardest time with. It's criteria A. I will read out the whole thing for the record. By reason of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of a specific piece of property, topographic conditions, or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions of the piece of property, the strict application of the regulation would result in the peculiar and undue practical difficulties for peculiar or unnecessary hardship on the owner of the property. This lot is not exceptionally narrow. It is not exceptionally shallow. It is exceptionally not shallow. It is exceptionally not narrow. It's not an exceptional shape. The shape is a rectangle. This is the most ordinary shape of a piece of property that exists. You know, topographic conditions. You mentioned that the property rises a little bit from where, like, your driveway cut into the cul-de-sac is to where your new house is being built, but a house with some slope on it is not exceptional in Lakewood, right? Have you been to Green Mountain? You know, it's that's not rare here. You know, and so, you know, what we've got, the best thing I think we've got that we could hang our hat on if we were looking for that is another extraordinary or exceptional situation. And you point out the crime stats, but I mean, I think your own evidence shows this is, you know, it's not great. It's not something I think Lakewood should be proud of. It's not something that I'm thrilled is the reality. But I think the general concern about crime, I think, you know, could be applicable to the entirety of the Iber neighborhood and maybe even, you know, the entirety of many other neighborhoods in the city. So this is the criteria I'm going to struggle with. Like, you mentioned in your presentation that you feel you meet this because of the crime. I'm very, very curious. I want you to tell me what other reasons, any and every other reason you feel that you do, in fact, meet this criteria.
Well, the main one that I tried to kind of highlight by kind of polling the audience was that it's been specific to us in this location. And I agree with you that this is more of an endemic problem within Iber, you know, just as the data shows. But I think that, you know, as we saw, granted very small sample size, you know, I'm the only one with my hand up after 3, which I think is, you know, exceptional even given the statistics.
Sure. Yeah, and even in my previous not in Lakewood house, you know, that I moved out of over 15 years ago now. Yeah, and then to my knowledge, no one tried to break into my house 3 times, even though it did happen to me more than 0. But yeah, I appreciate that effort, and that you understand you do have to comply with these criteria. Board members, are there any other questions for Mr. Teska? I heard someone say they have a question for staff up here, but we'll get to the staff presentation next. Mr. Teska, we may have questions for you later, so you may come back. Oh, actually, Commissioner O'Neill just put her light on. Go ahead.
Sorry. I guess my question would be, have you put any other security items in place, like alarms or lighting or, you know, motion lighting?
So
Cameras, obviously you have.
Yeah, all 3 of those actually we put into place.
And it's not deterring the folks.
So what I'm looking to is to try to get in front of any issues. And this is, you know, as we're building the house, we have the opportunity to add features to the security of the house that are both, you know, beautiful, add something to the neighborhood, and also help deter crime. You know, at this junction, I'm trying to be proactive instead of reactive with that. And so that's why I'm wanting to have this as kind of part of that, you know, layers of the onion sort of approach to just, you know, making sure that we're safe.
Yeah, understandable. I think one thing that sticks out to me with some of the renderings that we've seen, whether it's 35 or 50% opacity or transparency at the gate, the solid fencing, you know, it prevents people from maybe wanting to come in. It also provides a place to hide. If folks, because they can get over a 6-foot fence if they really want to. So I think there's those pieces of it that then there's not that additional visibility by neighbors and by other folks that maybe see somebody hiding behind that fence waiting for you to drive through. And I don't understand how like the fire department gets through your gate and things like that in the event of an emergency. How does that work?
As I understand it, there's on the newer gate system, there's like a fire department override, or they have some kind of.
They can just make it open?
I think so, yeah.
Oh,
So-
okay.
And it's obviously not that strong construction. It's not Fort Knox.
If
so,
they had
like,
to, yeah,
they
of
could
course.
come in if
Right.
they'd like to.
Right. I appreciate that. And I also am very sympathetic to the situation. Thanks.
All right, Mr. Teska, thank you for your presentation. Like I said, we'll call you back up if we have more questions for you later. For now, I will invite the staff presentation. It looks like we have Ms. Thomas once again. Welcome back. Hello.
Good evening again, board members. My name is Katie Thomas, and I will be presenting on behalf of staff for major variance case VM 25-0007 at 1085 Everett Court. So the applicant is seeking relief from the Article 6 provision of the Lakewood zoning ordinance that limits front yard fences to a maximum height of 4 feet and requires front yard fences to be 50% open in the front yard for single-family residential land uses. The applicant is requesting approval of a major variance to allow 6-foot-tall privacy and a 35% open vehicle gate in the front yard. So the major variance process allows for the Board of Adjustment review as well as neighborhood involvement when there's an extraordinary or exceptional situation. If the board approves this major variance, the applicant may apply for a fence permit to build the new fence according to the presented plans. So here's the subject site, which we did see on the previous presentation. So here's the zoning for the subject property and adjacent properties. The subject property is actually part of a plan development. This is the White Camp Historic Farmstead Plan Development, and the underlying zone district is R112. All the surrounding properties here are R112. So referrals were sent to outside agencies. None of the utility agencies had any objections to the variance request. Lakewood Comprehensive Planning stated that the removal and replacement of the new fence should comply with the zoning regulations, and to do so does not represent an unnecessary hardship. Lakewood Code Enforcement with the police department stated that a 4-foot-tall, 50% open fence and gate is adequate for security purposes. Due to health and safety concerns, they are concerned with installing a 6-foot-high fence on the property in the front yard. The immediate surrounding properties comply with the current fence regulations. The installation of the fence will severely hide access to the house in the event of emergency police or fire responses to the property. And the code enforcement and the police department's data does not show significant or high criminal activity near this location. Planning cases that require a public hearing must follow the procedural requirements defined in the zoning ordinance, and all those notice requirements were satisfied. So the property is approximately 1.35 acres in size. There's a new single-family home currently under construction. So this site used to be the rear lot of the property located directly south. There was a subdivision in 2023 to create that lot. There is existing 6-foot privacy fence along what used to be the rear lot line of this old lot. This is now considered the front lot line of this new lot. Staff has determined that the fencing is permitted to remain as long as it is not altered and taken down. Any new fence or replacement fence must meet the standards of the zoning ordinance. So here's just some more images of the site and the location of the proposed fence. We have seen this for the proposed site plan and elevations. Here's some pictures that I took out on the site. You can see here, this is Everett Court facing north with West 13th Avenue. Here's facing south towards the subject property. So the following is staff's analysis as it relates to the criteria. First, by reason of an extraordinary or exceptional situation on the property, that the strict application of the regulation would result in unnecessary hardship. Staff's findings are that the subject property's location does not present a practical difficulty that causes an unnecessary hardship. The street is lined with other single-family lots, and very few have front yard fencing. Those that do have fencing meet the standard. While staff acknowledges acknowledges the security concerns. This is a generalized condition that impacts the area as a whole and does not constitute a unique hardship or exceptional situation inherent to this specific property. Second criteria is that the condition is not self-imposed. Since the property is allowed to have 4 feet tall, 50% open in the front yard, the applicant's request to build taller fencing in the front yard is self-imposed. Third, the variance complies with the spirit of the zoning ordinance. The purpose and intent of the fence height standard is to allow visibility into the front yard for first responders and first responders and for health and safety reasons. Based on the lack of hardship presented, the variance does not comply with the purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance. Next, the variance will not impair the use of development or adjacent property. If the variance is granted, the construction of the fence would not substantially impair the use or development of adjacent property. The proposed variance is the minimum that will afford relief with the least modification. The proposed variance will offer relief above and beyond what is available to the applicant based on what is permitted in the zoning ordinance. And lastly, the variance is the minimum that will afford relief if a design requirement cannot be met. The proposed variance will offer relief above and beyond what is available to the applicant in the zoning ordinance based on the lack of unique hardship inherent to the subject property. So based on the information and materials provided by the applicant, staff does not support the major variance request. Therefore, staff recommends that the Board of Adjustment deny the major variance request, case number VM25-0007, to allow 6-foot privacy fencing and a 35% open vehicle gate in the front yard at 1085 Everett Court. This concludes staff's presentation. If you have any questions, I will be available.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Board Member Carius.
I have many questions. So number one, starting from staff's kind of premise, if he had built the proposed fence before he split the lot in 2023, would he have been able to build it to this design?
Potentially, yes. I don't know that a vehicle gate would have been allowed for access off of the cul-de-sac, but if it's considered the rear yard, 6-foot privacy fencing is permitted.
Gotcha. So I think this to me is like, we want to see people lot splitting. We've been talking about this at City Council and so many different places, like people splitting their lots, building new homes, adding this type of density to their neighborhoods in ways that they communicate with their neighborhoods. And then, you know, it comes down to like a fence or something weird about these small details. And ironically, it's my first time seeing a fence in Lakewood, but it's not my first time having a fence about 6 feet versus 4 feet at a planning commission meeting or Board of Adjustment meeting, and I hate these ones because it's the most mundane thing. Essentially, this property is flipped around. The arguments basing and supporting, I think particularly what annoys me is what's written in Part C of staff's report, that it's intended to promote public health, safety, and welfare purposes. And that is defined there by the low and open fencing facing the street visibility. We're ending onto a cul-de-sac. Are we expecting pedestrians and bicyclists to be going circles around the cul-de-sac down there? Is that who we're protecting? I think, how are we justifying what typically is used for this is a straight line down the street of a 4-foot fencing with a gate that comes off, and you need to be able to see somebody come out. But he has literally extra space added between the streets. So I'm trying to understand how you're making a safety argument when there's at least 6 feet between the gate and the property. It's a cul-de-sac that has no general pedestrian traffic other than whoever is walking to their house. There's no designated bicycle path or pathing around there. The sidewalk leads to, again, the property owner's house. I'm not seeing the health and safety argument, and that is the real crux of this.
So the criteria in the staff report is that the 4-foot tall, 50% open fence height requirement is for visibility into the front yard. So this, since it's been subdivided, is now and has a house constructed on it, it is now considered the front yard, and therefore the requirement for the 4-foot tall, 50% open fencing is for visibility into the front yard.
Okay, because I read on the second line, the low and open fencing allows for clear visibility of the front yard and the ability to quickly locate the front door, which we've seen has been raised 8 feet because he's living on a hill. So you can clearly see the front door from the property, even over the fence line as is. And for emergency service providers, which he's addressed in his statement already, and for mail and delivery carrier services, which is built into the design of the fence as well. So the only thing we're missing is the hillside entry up to the house is the only part that we need to be able to see, which I specifically asked him, could we just expand the 35% open visibility to that section? Would that meet city standards to just have that visibility for a 6-foot fence instead?
So you're entitled to your consideration for this particular request. And staff put something together. Essentially, the emergency services, both fire and police, don't care for lack of visibility in front yards, right? So that's the first thing. So it's both fire and police. Second, there isn't, in staff's opinion, we get requests for fencing in the front yard several times a year, right? So in this particular instance, I can probably walk around in that neighborhood and come up with some cul-de-sacs and find multiple properties where this condition exists, whether it's the different height or something like that, but cul-de-sacs. So if you grant if you feel that this fence at this location is appropriate, we prefer that you change the fencing standards, not do it property by property by property, because this property is not unique in Lakewood. So that's what we're looking at. So from a safety standpoint, yes, staff did put together kind of an explanation there for you, but it really is fire and police don't care for this type of thing in Lakewood.
Okay, but we specifically have, like, it says in the staff's report as well that you've reached out to fire, you've reached out to police. They provided no negative opinion on this.
So we did receive referral comments from Lakewood Code Enforcement with the police department that they don't support this request because it it restricts visibility into the front yard. So we did receive comments from the police department.
From code enforcement.
And I did speak to Officer Sam as well today that this location is not, and he did state that this is not a high crime area.
Yeah, I think reasonably people can disagree on the crime level. I think I'm backed out of that one myself because I ride the train line all the time. I don't think the safety argument is compelling, but I think the rest of the architectural details of the property, the uniqueness of the property, the fact that he has split the lot into the backside creates a unusual circumstance at best that we've created a kind of never intended property off of this cul-de-sac. So to me, I'm reading from line 1 where we have these exceptions, we have this unique case, and there was an existing 6-foot fence. The design of the new fence and gate is actually an improvement upon the old, access and different space. I'm having a hard time seeing why we should say no, other than, sorry, the privacy fence part and you should aim for the 50% visibility. I agree with that, but 6 feet, 4 feet, the 4-foot rule is like, it's so strange to put a 4-foot fence and then have an 8-foot hill directly behind it. We're undermining the purpose of the zoning code itself by trying to enforce this rule. If we enforce this rule, we actually undermine the purpose of having that 4-foot fence there, because now we're just going to tell everybody they need this 4-foot fence because of whatever house it's on. And I agree we should change the underlying zoning code, and I marked it in the sheet. I'd love to go through and change it, but we just repealed all the zoning code in the city of Lakewood, so none of that's happening again. So, and it'll be a long time till any of this happens. So I think this is one where actually by enforcing the rules, we set up a system that undermines the entire purpose of the rules, which to me is more dangerous in the long run. But that's my personal take. I think if others want me to make a more direct argument to the review criteria of like which sections I believe, I'm happy to do so. But to me, I see there's definitely a way through this. And I think as long as the applicant would be willing to move towards, I would prefer the 50%. I believe I know you had a design, you probably saw a nice fence and really liked the design. I wish I could just say, yes, choose the best design, but no. If you'd be willing to move towards the 50%, that would be an area I'd be much more willing to consider with the 6-foot. because it still meets all the other health and safety criteria, and that is the crux of planning, of urban planning, of zoning, is the public health, safety, and welfare. And I don't want to undermine that purpose. So I think that's where I'm at. I'm happy to make more arguments, but I yield.
Thank you, Board Member Carius. Board Member Molinar.
Thank you, Chair. I know this property very well. I walk by it every weekday, twice. And the idea of the cul-de-sac as it was presented is almost like you can't walk through it, but this cul-de-sac actually has entry points from two sides. It's more like an L-shaped street that has pedestrian traffic to the light rail station, where I go, for instance. And when we were looking at the door, at a particular angle, you may see the door, but maybe not from the other entry point of the street where first responders may come. So that is something that I was thinking about. And then I actually think this request doesn't align with the criteria A and B, because I actually, and maybe I'm reading the self-imposed wrong, but I'm thinking we have agency in where we build a house. And so you have been living in a neighborhood. You've probably known this map for some time. You have had incidents at your house. So, and given that there's also other measures to keep intruders out, or at least keep track of them, I'm thinking it is indeed self-imposed. And so I have trouble aligning this request with criteria A and B as listed in a packet. Thank you.
Okay, any other board members? Yeah, I will opine. I'm in strong agreement with what Board Member Carius said about the openness of the gate. I can see an inherent security of a 6-foot tall fence being greater than the 4-foot tall fence, but the things that the police and fire department and code enforcement care about being able to see the front of the yard, the idea of neighborhood eyes. People do walk past this cul-de-sac, including a member of our board who lives in the neighborhood and uses the light rail station. People do walk by. There is the collective security we all enjoy when people are having eyes on the street and see a property every day just going by and know what it's supposed to look like and know who's supposed to be there and can see in and tell when something's going on. And there's we don't have spaces for maybe the bad guys to hide in the front of our property. So there's no scenario where I would support the variance request for a fence that does not meet the minimum open requirements that's in the code. I think upon thinking about it deeply, I did question out loud earlier in this meeting the uniqueness of the property criteria, the first 1A. Maybe I could convince myself that this is unique by virtue of the fact that it was a lot that was split. There's not a lot of people who are splitting lots in Lakewood to build a second house on them. As Commissioner Carius said, we spent a 1.5-year comp plan process and then a long zoning process update to try to promote the very concept of some lot splitting in gentle infill of more low-form residential homes in Lakewood. There's not a lot of places under the rules we have in place now where that is allowed. We made an effort to reform those rules. I think we obviously got our effort to reform those rules wrong because if we had gotten them right, the citizens of the city would have accepted them, but they did not. So we have the old rules that we've had for some time before that. But even under those rules, Mr. Teska was able to split the lot and add just one house on a big lot, a very gentle density way. And that, I hate admitting this, but it is the whole rationale for the reform we tried and it didn't work out. That's hard to do. It is kind of exceptional that you can even split a lot and legally meet all the dimensional criteria to build another house, and he did it here. And so, the existing 6-foot fence that exists, it's a very nice fence. It's allowed to legally continue. through, the provisions of Article 12 of the zoning code that, talk about existing nonconformities. It would be weird to maybe, you could argue it's not self-imposed to have this existing fence that was illegally built long ago, back of a lot fence, that's still there. And while he did choose to split the lot and make it in the front, he maybe didn't choose the differing criteria of, what fences are allowed in terms of height in the front and the back of the lot, or maybe even that fence was there to begin with. I presume it predates his time in the house. So I think, I'm inspired by Board Member Carius's comments. I think I can work myself to seeing how this variance could be justified for height, but not for openness. And I appreciate that the applicant indicated that he's open to that compromise. Board Member O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'm kind of struggling back and forth with the same things that Board Member Buckley is mentioning. I think that the statements that Board Member Carius has made are really compelling, just in the way of getting out of our own way in Lakewood. I think that if there are other folks that come forward and want to put up 6-foot fences throughout the neighborhood after they see this fence, if this fence is approved, it would have to go through this process. So we would have to assess all of the geography around that and how it lays out, and if it makes sense, and if it can be accommodated for all the safety reasons that are laid out in staff's report. So I would make the argument that there are other options as well. Most municipal police departments will create a SEPTED report for residents. That's a crime prevention through environmental design. Maybe you have that, where they will suggest things that are code compliant and that they do think are safe, are more safe for residents and the community. Hostile vegetation. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do. I don't know that it discourages things in the same way that a taller fence does. And when you put it, as we're arguing over 4 feet to 6 feet, I mean, it does feel a little bit silly. I guess those are just my thoughts on it. I'm working through it, but I do think that we have to be careful to not overthink some of these requests. Thanks.
I actually have a question for Mr. Teska, if you would not mind coming back up. Yeah. Thank you, sir. You heard a bit ago staff testify that, per a conversation with the police, that your lot was deemed not a high crime activity area. That was a quote from Ms. Thomas's conversation with the police. You had those videos of like the 3 instances where an intruder attempted to come onto your property. Was there a police report filed in any of those instances? And what did the police say about that to you?
Yeah, all 3 of those instances had police reports filed. And I actually have a neighbor who lives on Field Street, who's a retired police officer from Denver. And so I've had a lot of discussions with him on kind of what can we do to help out with those things. So we've implemented a lot of those. There was nothing in particular that the officers that responded when we asked them in the middle of the night, obviously, what could we do differently? What did we do wrong? Why did this happen to us? All the questions that you'd have as a citizen who's going through that, in the middle of the night kind of thing. And there was really no recommendations that they had except for a little bit better lighting. There was no mention that a change to the fence would make things better in that case. And that's because I think we already had the 6-foot fence at 9001.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And that's for the house that faces 10th that already has the non-conforming 6-foot tall fence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Remind me, I think you talked about if this variance were to be approved, access for the fire department or emergency vehicles. Are you committing that that would be a feature of your fence?
Of course, it's
Yeah.
very much in my self-interest to have that
Okay.
be a feature.
Yeah, I think that intent of public safety, so that there's access to your own property, it is in your self-interest, and it's in the public's interest, not just yours, that your house is not on fire, that can't be accessed. Your neighbors will certainly appreciate that, I'm sure. So, yeah, and you did say in your written presentation that was on Lakewood Speaks and here that you're willing to compromise and go to that 50% openness. It seems like the board, where we're at, if we grant this, it certainly will be still requiring you to meet the 50% openness rule. So that design for the gate you have is out the door, is out the window. But you're willing to start over and have something that would meet the criteria of a variance if we pass it. If it's narrower. Okay, it's good to see you nod your head. Yes.
Sure, sir.
Yeah, I will point out too that I do still feel compelled that I have to make sure you'll at least do that because of the criteria that the proposed variance is the minimum variance that will afford relief. And this board does in the code, I believe, have the authority to request a variance less than what's requested. So it seems like that's possibly a direction we're going. I appreciate your openness to that. Any other board members? Any questions or comments? All right. Thank you, Mr. Teska.
Thank you.
Board members, I'm willing to entertain a motion from somebody on what to do with this case. Commissioner Carius. Mr. Wrights first.
I was going to point out that the resolution is, so the staff recommendation is for denial. The resolution is written in the affirmative.
Yes. I noticed that. Thank you. So yeah, so we have a potential draft resolution in the packet from staff that's written in the affirmative. It essentially says that it meets all the criteria A through F that are applicable to approving a major variance request. That is as always, that is a draft resolution prepared to guide us and be to our benefit in deciding what to do, but no one is required to move that resolution. We can move anything we want. So again, I will ask the board members, what does someone want to move? Board Member Carius.
Yeah, with your permission, sorry, I'm losing my throat is acting up. I need water or something.
No worries.
I would like to make a motion to approve the resolution as written with a condition that the VM case 25-0007, the major variance for the front yard fence, required the 50% openness on all new fencing added, but allow for the 6-foot fencing.
I'll second that motion. So we do have a motion to approve the request for the variance for the reason of the finding of fact and order in the resolution in the packet, but with the amendment that the openness of the fence must meet the requirement in the code. But so that leaves that the height alone would be varied to the 6-foot maximum that is requested. Does our legal staff find that motion to be perfectly clear and in order?
I do. I want to point out that 17.2.5.5 A3 D allows the Board of Adjustment to make a decision to approve with modifications, or deny the application for a major variance. So you would be approving with modification. And then I would also just point out that currently the resolution states in subsection 1E that the proposed variance is the minimum variance that will afford relief. And I do believe the board has determined that it's not the minimum variance that would afford relief. So I'm not sure if there's an amendment to the motion that was made to modify that subsection, or if you are satisfied already.
Thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Skink. That's exactly why I'm asking you to, review the resolution we have here when we're acting a little on the fly to make something. I would propose a friendly amendment, I guess, to Board Member Carius's motion then to, in the findings of facts in order 1E and F, to strike the word proposed, where it says the proposed variance is the minimum variance that will afford relief in each of those sections, and replace it with the modified variance is the minimum variance that will afford relief.
Second. I am happy with that amendment.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to, amend the main motion. So I think we can vote on that. So this vote, a yes, in sections 1E and F, will change the word we'll strike the word proposed and replace it with the word modified, so that the entire sections would read: E, the modified variance is the minimum variance that will afford relief with the least modification possible of this zoning ordinance, and F, the modified variance is the minimum variance that will afford relief if a design requirement cannot be met. So all in favor of those, of that language change, vote yes, and all opposed to that change to the motion, vote no. Cast your votes now, please. All right, that passes with 5 ayes and 0 nays. So we now have a motion on the floor to approve the modified variance, allowing the 6-foot height, but requiring that the applicant still meet the city code requirement for 50% openness. That's the motion now on the floor, and the reasons we're stating that is saying that it's this modified version of his request, not the applicant's initial request. Commissioner Carius.
Yeah. Goddamn. I just want to make the case to my fellow commissioners for Part A in regards to the exceptional situation and condition of the piece of property. I think based on the application, the evidence that's been presented so far, and the case presented, again, I'm split and kind of neutral on the safety argument. The city and the property owner can argue about that all they want about safety-wise. People reasonably disagree on what safety means to them. But I do find it to be an exceptional and kind of extraordinary situation for the city to have this case being presented before itself. We have a property owner coming with a particular case and a particular set of circumstances with a particular property asking for one particular variance. He has already backed down to a degree on the request made in the variance, as we've stated in our condition and modification. And the undue practical difficulties would essentially be changing up of the plans and the mismatch of the existing property and the change of all things that goes on with that. So I think the city has more so created an unnecessary hardship on itself than the property owners created hardship. But I think this is just such one of those strange ones. And I think I want to, for the rest of the commission, also bring up the other previous time a 6-foot fence versus 4-foot fence in a front yard came up for me. It was because somebody had Great Danes and they just wanted a larger fence, and that also got denied because of these, that wasn't peculiar and unusual enough. And of course, these large dogs can jump the fence and different stuff. It's such a thing, and I totally agree, Director Rice, that we should change the underlying code overall for the city and make things much more flexible and allow property owners to choose based on their property, based on their design preferences, what they would like for their property that still meets the public health, safety, and welfare requirement that undergirds the entire function of the zoning code. So I think if there's any questions for me about why I am leaning towards this is an extraordinary and exceptional case. I'm happy to add more details to it, but I think the topography, the uniqueness of the case being a split lot property, the previous fencing that previously existed, the strict application of the regulation makes it even weirder and kind of undermines the purpose of the regulation itself and the spirit of the regulation more so. I think also, I'm sorry to say, but I think staff's presented a weak case in this, in the written document. Mostly it felt kind of boilerplate, like an urban planning student submitted what the purpose of that is and didn't actually tailor it to the uniqueness of the property or to the purpose for the property itself. And that, it hurt me to read that. And then to receive this letter, I don't know who this person is, one of your neighbors or something, they were also able to call it out. They're not trained in it. They have no training in urban planning or anything, I assume, and yet they also called out some of the language used in staff's report, and that just hurts. That just hurts. So with that, I hope I've made my case well enough. I yield.
Yeah, I find the rationale of your case compelling. Board Member Carias, I'm with you in agreement on your rationale of how you'll decide this case. I do want to emphasize I certainly respect the efforts of staff and always respect the rationale of staff. I know that many times staff is in a position that Board of Adjustment members and Planning Commission members are not necessarily in. They see a lot more cases than we do. Hundreds and hundreds of applications for all sorts of things come in every year. And if there's one ironclad rule I know that they stick to with good reason, it's like you got to treat every applicant the same or you do create bigger issues with the process. And so, while I disagree with the staff recommendation on this particular case, if staff has a bias in a direction towards being very rigid and literal interpreters of the code for purposes of the seemingly, daunting and task that most people would find near impossible that they accomplish amazingly every day of handling hundreds of planning applications a year. They just kind of have to be rigidly and dogmatically consistent, or else they'll lose their minds and they just can't handle their workload. So I get it. I certainly don't blame staff for the recommendation in this. It's appreciated, and though I will be voting different than that staff recommendation, I certainly I want to thank staff as always for their work and honor the professional integrity with which you carry it out. Mr. Rice, did you have a comment?
If the commission, staff puts a report together and it is pretty generic, right? There's nothing in staff's opinion unique about this particular property. If the board would prefer that we not have staff reports and they have this discussion, we're more than welcome to do that as well.
Yeah, thank you for throwing that option out there. I would definitely not be in favor of that. I always find this staff report to be extraordinarily helpful and informative. So that's just my own reaction to that, Mr. Rice. Thank you all for your effort to write the staff report. It's not something that takes a trivial amount of time. And again, I want to honor the professionalism with which staff always carries out that responsibility. And I know you will continue in it, and I urge you to do so. Board Member Molinar.
Thank you, Chair. I'm certainly sympathetic to the applicant. I like the compromise in Board Member Carias's suggestions. Having walked by this property so often, though, I wouldn't call it unique or extraordinary, even though it's a beautiful home. Maybe the only thing that's unique about it is that it's slightly higher than the rest of the street for me. But then we're going to go into what does unique and extraordinary mean, right? I think differently than Board Member Carias, but I do like sort of the attempt at compromising here, which makes it a little bit more difficult for me to cast my vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Board Member Molinar. Yeah, I'll state my opinion. I've reasoned out that this hearing has convinced me. You know, it is unfortunately kind of unique and extraordinary that Mr. Teska was able to split this lot and build a second house on it. I know because I was part of a large group that extensively studied this when we did the comprehensive plan and first attempted zoning update last year. That's really hard to do under our code, and he had a very unique lot in a very unique zoning situation where it was actually possible. And he's already built the house. We grant this variance or not, he's already accomplished his desire to split the lot, build a new house for his family, and do what he pleases with the other house on the other lot he now owns. As is his right, and I say good for you for that. I mean, yeah, good for working through this crazy process just to even get that far. So I know the variance doesn't affect that much, but yeah, goodness, it is an unusual, an extraordinary thing to do, and so that counts for something in my book, at least, with how I'm interpreting this case. And moreover, it. Like all that you've gone through, and again, it's not exactly the variance itself, because the variance doesn't affect whether that new house you've already mostly finished building is going to be there. But it is in the spirit of the new comprehensive plan to find appropriate opportunities at a neighborhood scale to do this very infill intensity. And I commend you for these letters you got for your neighbors. You've obviously been in good communication with your neighbors, and found a way where they support this activity that you've undertaken. And maybe even there's a broader lesson that we all can learn from your ability to get your neighbors on board with that very idea of splitting a lot that has proven so controversial in this city in recent history. Things for us to ponder. But that's how I see the case, I guess. I'm supportive of this modified variance as laid out in Board Member Carius's motion. Any other comments? I'm seeing none, and so let's cast a vote. Again, the motion on the floor is to approve this variance request with the modification that we are only approving the variance request for the 6-foot fence height, maximum 6-foot fence, and we are not varying the openness criteria. And a resolution has been changed, so the wording is referring to this this modified variance. So with that, please cast your votes. Again, a yes would be approving with the modification. Okay, that motion carries 4 ayes, 1 nay, the nay being Commissioner Molinar. Mr. Teska, thank you for your presentation tonight, and congratulations on your variance. Just good luck continuing to work with staff, and good luck with the rest of the construction on your property. Mr. Rice, we can move on to our next item on the agenda.
Item 5, approval of minutes for December 3rd, 2025.
All right, yes, December 3rd was our last meeting of this board. We don't get a lot of variance requests, which is the main thing this board does, but we have minutes from them to approve. December 3rd, 2025 is the date it was from. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes of December 3rd, 2025.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. That motion carries. The minutes are adopted. Mr. Rice, next item.
Item 6, general business.
Okay. We talked about in the last meeting just some upcoming meeting dates for the Planning Commission. Is there any general business or other cases possibly coming to this board?
The October 7th date that we have, this is our particular case that keeps falling down the calendar. There could possibly be a variance associated with the special use. We haven't quite figured that out yet. So we could end up with a meeting where we do something tonight where we would act on the special use as a planning commission and then a variance request as the Board of Adjustment.
All right, sounds fun. I have no doubt we'll figure it out
Figure it out.
if it comes to that.
Yes.
All right, but yes, that's a date we already discussed. My general business item for the board would be the same as it was at the last meeting too. Mr. Rice and I had a conversation about opening up our rules and regulations for some minor technical amendments. So I'll be working with him to try to calendar that agenda item sometime in the next several months. I think I prefer to do it on a night when we don't have a heavy caseload. Maybe there's a night where we can, I don't know, I'll work with him. Perhaps there's a night where we could actually have a planning commission meeting followed by a Board of Adjustment meeting just for purposes of updating those rules and regulations. There's a little bit more legwork to finalize. I draft those updates and get them out so that we can all consider them an open meeting and all that. But just so you're aware that could be coming down the pipe. Any other board members, questions or requests for anything under general business? Okay, well, this is the last item on our agenda, so seeing no more general business and seeing no more business before this board this evening, I adjourn the August 19th, 2026 meeting of the Board of Adjustment at 9:40 p.m. Thank you and good night, everyone.
Thank you.